So, reading from Srimad Gita Upanishad, as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Text number 6 of chapter 4, chapter entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Please repeat. Ajopi san avyatma bhutanam ishvaro pisan prakritim swam adistaya sambhavami atmamayaya ajopi san avyatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adistaya sambhavami atmamayaya ajopi san avyatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adistaya sambhavami atmamayaya ajopi san avyatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adistaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Okay? Ajopi san avyatma Ajopi san avyatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adistaya sambhavami atmamayaya ajopi san avyatma nam ishvaropi san prakritim swam adistaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Okay, word for word, please repeat. Ajaha, unborn. Api, although. San, being so. Avyaya, without deterioration. Atma, body. Bhutanam, of all those who are born. Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. Api, although. San, being so. Prakritim, in the transcendental form. Swam, of myself. Adistaya, being so situated. Sambhavami, I do incarnate. Atmamayaya, by my internal energy. Translation Srila Prabhupada. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Please repeat. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Purport Srila Prabhupada. The Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of His birth. Although He may appear like an ordinary person, He remembers everything of His many, many past births. Whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few hours before. If someone is asked what he did exactly at the same time one day earlier, it would be very difficult for a common man to answer immediately. He would surely have to dredge his memory to recall what he was doing at exactly the same time one day before. And yet, men often dare to claim to be God or Krishna. One should not be misled by such meaningless claims. Then again, the Lord explains his Prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature, as well as Swarup or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body as the common living entity changes from one body to another. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has a different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body, but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so. Whenever he appears, he does so in the same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original eternal form with two hands holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by this material world. Although he appears in the same transcendental body and is the Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. And although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood to youth. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. At the time of the battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home, or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculations. Still, he looked just like a young man of 20 or 25 years old. We never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us, although he is the oldest person in the whole creation, past, present, and future. Neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn, eternal form of bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun's rising, moving before us, and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think that the sun is set, and when the sun is before our eyes, we think that the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position, but owing to our defective, insufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any ordinary common living entity, it is evident that he is eternal blissful knowledge by his internal potency. And he is never contaminated by material nature. The Vedas also confirm that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unborn, yet he still appears to take his birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literature also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change of body. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayan, with 4 hands and the decorations of the 6 kinds of opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form is his causeless mercy, bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is, and not on mental concoctions or imaginations which the impersonalist wrongly thinks the Lord's forms to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy, according to the Vishvakosha dictionary. The Lord is conscious of all his previous appearances and disappearances, but a common living entity forgets everything about his past body as soon as he gets another body. He is the Lord of all living entities because he performs wonderful and superhuman activities, while he is on this earth. Therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between his form and self, or between his quality and body. A question may now be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. This is explained in the next verse. Makam karochi vachalam phangam laite girim yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Gurun dinatarinam Ajopi san avyatma Bhutanam isvaropi san Prakritim swamadistaya Sambhavami atmamayaya. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Yes, so Krishna is starting to explain himself to Arjuna, and therefore this chapter is called Transcendental Knowledge. Transcendental knowledge means to understand Krishna. And that's the difference between third chapter, Karma Yoga, and fifth chapter, Naiskarmya Yoga, right? Chapter title of number 5, Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. In the Sanskrit it means, it is Naiskarmya Yoga. Third chapter is Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga means, in that context, that the person is performing his material duties, his karma, but even though he's doing it for the Supreme, yoga, in union with the Supreme, he still is interested in the fruit. He still wants to get some result from his karma yoga. However, in the fifth chapter, Naiskarmya Yoga means that there is no material desire. One is performing one's material duties, according to Varnashram or whatever they may be, without desire for personal reward through that activity. Karma means work in the material world according to your propensity, according to your conditioning by the material modes. So generally people perform activities for some personal fruit, of course, and they know nothing beyond that. Particularly Kali Yuga, everyone is trained in that way. Perform activities, get money, put it in your pocket and enjoy. But Naiskarmya Yoga is a distant idea. Why should I work if I don't get any fruit? Well, if you have transcendental knowledge, Jnana Yoga, like is given here, Krishna is beginning to describe himself, his birth and activities, a good start if you consider, right? You start with his birth and activity. If you have transcendental knowledge, then you become purified of this selfish desire for a fruit, for my activities. This is the potency of transcendental knowledge, that it purifies the soul from selfishness, which is the root of our continuing in the material world. In the spiritual world, everyone is performing Leela, but without selfishness. They're open-hearted, they're generous, they want Krishna and their fellow devotees to be pleased. But in the material world, everyone is trying to get something for me and the extensions of myself, my family, my country, my philosophy, my political adherents. They want to get something for themselves, whatever they consider that self to be. So they remain conditioned in the material world as a result of this, because they want the fruit, so therefore they have to undergo that fruit in the next life. They think, oh, it's a good, I'll get the fruit, but all they will get to undergo that fruit is another birth, old age, disease. Krishna is explaining here, I'm not subject to that deterioration. Therefore, in third canto of Bhagavatam, you will find that it is stated there by Lord Brahma that generally the living entity gets the fruit of this life in the next life. By cultivating desires and activities in this life, we define our next material life, if they are selfishly based. And therefore, if we're a thief in this life, we'll be born in a low position. If we're generous and moral person, we may even go to Swargaloka. But wherever we go, we're remaining in the material world, which is the lower class energy. It's the material world. It's a place of birth, death, old age and disease. If you go to prison, it's not much of a consolation that I'm in the first class position in Tihar jail, or I'm in the low class position. You're still in the jail. So this is Durga, hard to get out of. And the reason we're bound in the jail, people say, oh, we're in the prison, but where are the walls? Where are the manacles? Where's the key locking me? I'm walking free upon the earth. This is the illusion. Considering, oh, I'm free to do anything, I'm enjoying life. No, yes, you may have some temporary mood of happiness, but you're going to lose everything at the time of death. You're going to lose all your bank balance, all your ideas, your philosophy, your wife, your children, and even your chapels. Everything will go. So what will be the end result? Krishna says, Mrityu sarva harasyaham. So what you're bound by in this Durgadam is this selfish desire to enjoy this inferior material energy. Right? But if you're unselfish and you want Krishna and his devotees to be happy, then your place is in the spiritual world. You get eternal life. You live in prem, not in matsarya, envy, because we're desiring to enjoy at the cost of others. We're exploiting other people in this material world for our own selfishness. So that is bound. We're bound to suffer. So the solution is to develop transcendental knowledge. And this is what Krishna tells. If you then you can move from karma yoga to naiskarmya, motivated action of your duties, to unmotivated. Because instead of being motivated by trying to desire yourself, you will understand my supreme self. Lord Brahma, he explains this in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, the chapter in the Bhagavatam after the Brahma Vimohan Leela. It says that generally people find the paraphernalia of this world, my house, my land, my country, my family, as very dear. But even more dear than that, Lord Brahma explains, is my own self. Though I love my wife, my children, my country in a material way, actually I love myself more than them. But then that means the body. But even more dear to us than the body is our mind and our thoughts. In the material world we think that our philosophy, our opinions, they are very wonderful and they're very dear to us. And you don't agree with me, huh? And therefore we've seen in the previous century, communist leaders, you don't agree with me, go to the concentration camp, get killed, get murdered. So, but even more important, dear to the living entity is his own soul, more dear than the mind. So you have the external paraphernalia, then the body, then the mind. It's increasing in dearness, if you like, but then even more dear than that is the soul. Me. We understand that in the material world, the sense of identity. And even though we may change our opinions, we're still in love with ourselves. But then Krishna explains that even more dear to the living entity is the Supreme Self. Mavaivamsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna explains, 15th chapter, that the living entities in this material world are my fragmental parts and parts. They're my angsa. Just like the finger is very dear to himself, but he's really dear to the body. He really loves the body. But in the material world, the finger doesn't know his connection to the body. So his dearness stops with his sense of identity. But really, Lord Brahma says, actually, if we understand and we have knowledge of the Supreme Self, then that Supreme Self becomes more dear to us. Just like the finger, the body is more dear to the finger than the finger itself, because through the body the finger comes to life. This is an analogy, of course. But without connection to the body, the finger is in a bad condition. So this is the material world. We're trying to be a finger in enjoying the low-class material energy instead of serving the complete whole, Krishna. So this selfishness is dispelled by knowledge of our relationship with the Supreme Lord. That is transcendental knowledge. Jnana Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti-yoga Prayojita, union to Vasudeva through Bhakti-yoga, Jnaniti Ashuvairagyam. You get knowledge, ahoitikam, causeless, you get realization of Krishna and your relationship to Krishna, and then you become vairag, you become detached from material thing. But the important point is the knowledge. So look, we'll read the verses from the beginning of chapter 4, and we'll see how Krishna develops this point. So first of all, first chapter, first verse, the personality of God, Lord Krishna, said, I instructed this science of yoga, union, of the finger to the whole body, to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ishvaku. So Krishna is giving the science of the self, science of yoga, how the individual self can be in harmony, unified with the Supreme Self. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So we talked about that last week, right? The four sampradayas and the four sampradaya acharya. And this knowledge has to be received in disciplic succession. That is the system of receiving this ancient science. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of this science. So Arjuna is Saka eti, right? Bhaktosi me Saka eti. So he's devoted to Krishna and he's a friend. So this is the whole point. If you're envious of the Supreme Lord and his supremacy, then you cannot get this understanding. Therefore you can understand this knowledge, this transcendental knowledge. So that is the point. In the material world, people are envious of the position of the Supreme Lord. And therefore they cannot understand the Supreme Lord. But also in this material world, there are the devotees and the sadhakas who are trying to understand the Supreme Lord and their relationship. So you have a basic division there. The Sura and the Asura, the Deva and the Daitya. So this is a very important point. If you are non-envious, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, Krishna will give you all understanding. But it means non-envious of the fact that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. If you cannot accept that we are servant, Jivera Swarupoi Nichera Krishna Das, if you cannot understand that relationship and accept it, then it's very difficult. But Bhaktosi me Saka eti. But actually we should. What is the best friend of the finger? The rest of the body. Krishna says, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, that I am the well-wisher of everyone. Prabhupada used to sign his letter, ever well-wisher. So Krishna, he loves all the living entities, even if they're in a rebellious mood, rebellious against his living entity, he's still the well-wisher. But those that are envious and mischievous, Krishna says in one section, I continually put into low positions where they go down and down in the material world. So conversely, those that are non-envious, and when Krishna talks about the qualities of a devotee, he always says, non-envious to living entity, friendly to all living entities. That is Krishna. So he doesn't like envious, proud and angry people, tamasic people. He likes people that are friendly, open-hearted, who practice humility. Humility is understanding my own position. So, Bhaktosi me, Shakayati, then Krishna says, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. But those that are envious of Krishna and envious to other living entities, he never gives them the understanding by which they can come. They stay in the material world. There's that verse, 15th chapter, what is it? Yo mam evam asamudho janati purushottamam sasavabid bhajati mam savabhavena bharata. Those people who understand me as the Supreme Lord, Janati Purushottam, Supreme Lord, with faith based on realization. Sasavavid Bhajatimam, knowing everything, they worship me. They're cleansed of envy by this knowledge of Krishna's position as the father of all living entities. Aham bija pritap pita. Krishna is the Father. How you can be envious of Krishna? He's given us life. He's given us eternal life. How you can be envious of Krishna when you realize my existence is the gift of Krishna? Savabhavena bharata. Last line. That person who worships me with love and devotion, he's the knower of everything. The Dharmi Buddhi Yoga. He gives all understanding. In the material world, everyone is in the Maya Shakti. They're all in illusion, confused, adopting this idea, this philosophy, this goal in life, that goal in life. They say all illusory, all temporary, all mistaken ideas. But Krishna, somebody in the Atma Maya, the energy of the Supreme Self, he knows everything. Sarvabhava, he understands everything. Krishna guides his intelligence, his understanding automatically. And therefore we have the example of the great acharyas, right? Like Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and all the great Vyasdev and the six Goswamis, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, all these great devotees. Why is it they could write such wonderful books that are still being studied? Because they're given this knowledge, this understanding by Krishna. So people still getting knowledge thousands of years later. Because it's coming from Atma Maya. So people in the material world, it's in Akara, fallible. This is in 15th chapter of the Gita. But those in the spiritual world, transcendental platform, are Akara, infallible. You look in 15th chapter. The living entity here, material world, is always mistaken about things. Is always misunderstanding something in a greater or lesser extent. But the spiritual world, everybody is situated in knowledge. Satchit, their cognizance, their understanding, their knowledge is fine. Here it's very crude and mistaken. And therefore they don't know who their friends and enemies are. But actually their real enemy is their own self. So, they do not understand that self belongs to Krishna. It is the gift of Krishna. Did I make myself? No. So, then, right, that's number 3. Number 4, that ancient science, Arjuna asked a very reasonable question. You can understand this. Earlier, Krishna said, I taught Vivaswan. Here, Arjuna says, Sun God Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? One devotee phoned me up this afternoon. He'll remain nameless. And he said, and he asked me a question. He said, Krishna taught this science to Vivaswan. So, Kesi Damana, tell me, was it on a battlefield? I think he was joking, of course. No, it's the same science of the relationship, but given in a different circumstance. Not likely to be a battlefield on the sun, Vivaswan or something like that. Anyway, so then number 5, many births, but Krishna is answering, and it's the same point that follows on to today's verse. Personality, that's Krishna, said, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. So the same point, introductory point to today's verse. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of the living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So Krishna is making this point, that I'm distinct from the conditioned living entities. This is the basic point of today, developing the idea from the previous verse. Confirmed. The point is that Krishna, his body is Atmamaya, Prakritim Swa. It is his own body. This material body is not our self. Krishna's body is himself. It is Swarup. So it is non-different from himself. So the living entity also has Swarup. Swa means own, and Rup means constitutional form and constitutional nature. So the living entity also has Swarup. This is one of the basic deviations in Vaishnavism. Many Sahajiya groups, they say no, the living entity doesn't have Swarup, but Guru gives him. That's all bogus. That means he's not non-different from Krishna. Something lacking. Then there's some other bogus ideas. They will say the living entity is just Sat. He doesn't have Chit and Anand. Well, if he doesn't have Chit, how is he conscious? What a nonsense idea. And if he doesn't have Anand, how is he Atmamaya? How is he an Angsa of Krishna? No, living entity is non-different from Krishna. Krishna is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Vigraha refers to form and personality. This is Lord Brahma. So the living entity also has a Swarup, spiritual form, but it is now dormant, just like the form of a tree is dormant within the seed. Through bhakti, through contact with Krishna, Krishna's internal energy, that form develops. Just like when the weather conditions are correct, then the tree will sprout. And that's why Lord Chaitanya says, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, Sadhukabanai, Shravanadi Sudachitte, Karide Uday. That the living entity, he's sleeping, he's in a dormant condition. His Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem is eternally established. So how you can say that there's no Ananda in the soul? It's ridiculous. Yes, it's there, but it's in a covered and dormant form. And how does it wake up? Shravanadi Sudachitte Karide Uday. It will wake up naturally. And 2 verses before that, the same point is repeated by Lord Chaitanya, Nitya Siddha Krishnasya Bhavasya. That the living entity, he is eternally established in the Supreme Lord. So this prem is eternally established in the soul. Now, this is a very important point. Also, that argument of the deviant sampradayas is also dispelled please don't talk during the class. It's a distraction. So, this is also dealt with at the end of the Brihat Bhagavatamrita. It said there, Satchitananda Rupasya. Sanatana Goswami composed Brihat Bhagavatamrita, and there's 2 verses near the end where he explains that the living entity is Satchitananda Rupasya. This is a very important point. That the living entity complete. He's not devoid of personality, prem, ananda, chit, vigraha. In the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, verses 1 to 3, in the 4th pada of the 4th adaya of the Ramanujacharya, he explains that the Swarup is folded within the soul. He's speaking figuratively, of course. So also this point is given in a letter by Srila Prabhupada to Rupanuga. The date of that is 7th of April 1972. So this point is there. The Swarup is within the soul. And even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course, what is that? Nitya Siddha Krishna, what is Krishna? Jivara Swarup hoy Nichera Krishna Das, his Swarup. But that doesn't satisfy the mental speculators. This idea that the living entity has no form, natural, is Mayavad philosophy. It's just a fragment of Sat, and therefore everything is added to it. That is the same as a material body then. If your spiritual body is not yourself, then what is the difference between that status and the material status? In the material world, the material body is not the soul, and if the spiritual body is not the soul, then it's the same dichotomy, the same division between soul and body. And Krishna is explaining in today's verse, Atma Mayaya, my Swarup, that's me. It never deteriorates. So anyway, that point should be understood, because I've seen many devotees in the past, they get deflected by this Sahajiya mental speculation, Mayavadi mixture, where the Guru says, you don't have Swarup, I will give you Swarup. Through Siddha Pranali, I will give you Swarup. No, this is very clear in the teachings of Raghunath Das Babaji, and throughout Jaiva Dharma and throughout all the Vaishnava literature. The spiritual form is natural to the soul. It's not an assumption. Baladev Vidyabhushan says the same thing in the same section of the Vedanta Sutra. So don't be distracted by that foolishness. Right? So then, after today's verse, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am Lord of living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So we also have original transcendental form, but it's dormant. But then Krishna says something else. So now Krishna, with yesterday's verse and today's verse, he's starting to give that transcendental knowledge. But now you will get the effect of that transcendental knowledge. Krishna will explain it. Whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of a religion, at that time I descend myself. So that's the reason, as Prabhupada said at the end of the purport, why he comes, Krishna, is explained in the next verse. Because even though this is the foolish material energy, Krishna still has loving sentiment for all the fallen souls. So he appears in his original form in the material world. Why? To give them some knowledge, to pick them up, to display what is the Supreme Lord. Whenever and wherever, right, religious practice, at that time I descend myself. Why? to deliver the pious, annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So millennium has different interpretations. Millennium can mean 1,000 years, but also in English, millennium can also mean a certain period of time. So we shouldn't misunderstand Prabhupada's usage. Now this is the result. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. So if you understand, if you realize Krishna, this birth, this transcendental nature, how Krishna is appearing by his own sweet will, his own energy in his original spiritual, eternal, non-deteriorating form, if you understand that, then you'll never take birth again. And then, this is the very important verse, number 10, Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. Being freed from attachment, fear and anger, being fully absorbed in me, taking refuge in me, many, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. This is the important point. Krishna now is giving transcendental knowledge. He's starting to reveal. In the earlier chapters, he was talking about Vishnu and Yagya, but in this chapter, Krishna starts to reveal his nature. And there's the result. Became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So, if you understand transcendental knowledge, if you understand Krishna as the unborn Supreme Lord, the controller who appears in his Leela to annihilate the miscreants and to save the sadhus and re-establish Dharma for the Belisha, those without knowledge, then you'll become purified. And then you'll attain transcendental love. We're talking about Krishna Prem. It's already there in the heart. How is it woken up? Shravanadi. That means you must hear about Krishna. You must get knowledge of Krishna. This will purify you. And the earlier part of the translation, freed, the knowledge will give you free from attachment, material attachment, fear, anxiety in the material world, Vaikuntha. Kuntha turns into Vaikuntha, and anger. This inability to accept that I am not the Supreme. That is the basis of anger of the Rakshasa. Like Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, they cannot accept that the Supreme Lord is superior to them. They rebel against that supremacy. But the devotee is happy. Oh, I've got a wonderful Prabhu. How to get rid of that envy of a superior? By understanding Krishna, that knowledge that Krishna reveals to the Shaka and the devotee, his friends and his devotees. That will purify you. Therefore, this chapter is so important because it gives you the knowledge that will purify you of this root problem. We think we're the best and we're the wonderful because we don't understand how wonderful is Krishna. Right? And therefore we are motivated in the material world, and therefore we become bound by these activities. So if we understand Krishna's wonderful position, then we become purified. Because just like we say, Krishna is non-different from his name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So Krishna is non-different from this knowledge. Right? That is the absolute Supreme Lord. He's non-different from his body. He's non-different from knowledge of himself, from his name, from his Leela, from his form. Nam, Guna, Rupa, Leela, his qualities, they are purifying. So even against our own will, just like if you fall in the Ganga, you become purified, even if you fell in accidentally. So Therefore, the devotees of Krishna, they go out, they perform Sankirtan like Lord Chaitanya, they distribute books, they distribute prasadam, they give association, and even though the fallen souls without knowledge of Krishna, without attraction to Krishna, by falling in the Ganga of the sadhu sangha, they become purified. I've seen that myself. In London, Saturday night, we always go chanting down at the West End. The West End is where all the pubs are and the cinema houses and the clubs. So now when we go down there now, I haven't been for a while, but because I'm staying here, but the people, they come out of the pub and they say, Hare Krishna, and they have a pint of beer in their hand. Oh, Hare Krishna, you're here again. Because, people are habitual, they're creatures of habit. So they go to the same pub, the same clubs every Saturday, and they like to see the Hare Krishnas dancing and chanting in the street. So, and even the policemen, at the beginning they were thinking, what's going on? Who are these strange people in strange clothes and shaved heads? But now they know, it's the Hare Krishnas, they're chanting, they don't make any trouble. So they just come out of the pub, I've seen it. And, Hare Krishna, come in and have a drink. Sorry, I'm not Lord Nityananda. He used to do that. He's Nityananda Avadut. When he used to go preaching with Haridas Thakur, he used to jump in the Ganga and wrestle with crocodiles. He would approach young ladies and say, I'll marry you if you chant Hare Krishna. Of course, he got into a little scrape with Jagai and Madai. And Haridas, is in Chaitanya Bhagavat, Haridas Thakur, he would never speak to Lord Chaitanya. He was so humble. He used to go to Advaita Charya, and he'd say, it's a very difficult thing to go preaching with a madman. Of course, this is loving talk. This is Lord Nityananda, I never know what he'll do next. So, anyway, so the devotees, they become Dira Janardana. They become devoted. Why? They become dear to the Dira and the Adira, the sober and the non-sober, because they're non-envious. If a devotee is non-envious, then he carries a mood of friendship with him, and that is more powerful than envious mood. And people become purified by sadhu sangha, sarva shastroi, lavamata sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. So all those drunks, they're coming out of the pub saying, have a drink. They're offering something to Krishna, right? They're offering to the devotees. That is the start of their bhakti. That is the start of their bhakti. Even though the devotees may not be nipping in for a quick pint, they're not accepting it, they're being offered it. So it's purifying. So this is the point, that light is more powerful than darkness. So the devotees, they're free of matsarya, this envy. Krishna gives them all intelligence, and by their potency, their sangha, even the materialists lose their selfishness. And if you want to know Krishna, if you want to know three root things about Krishna, transcendental knowledge means to understand Krishna, like we've just said. There's three roots in the Das Mula, root truth. Mula means root. 3 points. One is Hari Ishvara, like Krishna says in today's verse. I am Ishvaropi San. I am the Supreme Lord. I'm not obliged to come here. Right? And the second one is Achincha Shakti Mam, that Krishna is the possessor of unlimited variety of Shakti. And the depth of those Shaktis, and this refers to Srimati Radharani, the depth of those Shaktis are unlimited, the variety and the depth of those Shaktis, unlimited, Ananta. And the third root truths in the Dashamula, this is an extension of the Prameya Ratnavali of Baladev Vidyabhushan. He wrote that commentary, Govindabhasya. Everyone should read that. The third root truth of understanding Krishna is Rasavai Saha. That he is a supreme controller. He has all these energies, unlimited in variety. But also, those energies are not just mechanical energies, but all the rasa, taste. We have different tastes. Just like there's a taste of a peach, taste of an apple. This is also, when you think about it, this destroys the materialist idea. If everything happened by chance, how come a peach tastes so nice? How come an avocado tastes delicious? A banana. Ask a monkey. And why is a banana so delicious? He will say, because Krishna made it. But these material scientists, they cannot say that. Why is an apple so delicious? Well, now lychee season. I don't want to make you hungry in the middle of class, but lychees are delicious. Why is that? Because it's a chemical reaction by chance? Why are you so stupid to believe such ideas? So this is rasa. You're so stupid and your intelligence is covered. Why? Because of Matsarya. Devotee, he drinks water, he thinks, this is rasoham absakunteya. He takes a lychee and he thinks, Krishna is making a beautiful taste. He eats some pomegranate and he thinks, what a wonderful taste. Why? Because Supreme Designer has made it that way. Right? Oh no, it's a chemical by chance. And it all came out of nothing by chance. Give me a headache tomorrow, be quiet. So, this is the nature of Krishna. He's full of all this, but it's all full of rasa. And therefore, 5 primary rasas, Sthai Bhava there, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, right? You all know this. Neutrality, so on. And then 7 secondary rasas, laughter, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger, dread, and ghastliness. And then 32 vaibhavs, also called sanchari bhavs. So all these tastes, they're documented by Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, nectar of devotion. You see, devotee, he tastes the rasa from Krishna. The Mayavadi, he just wants to merge into some amorphous energy field. But the devotees, they enter into an ocean of rasa. So these are the 3 things. Tell me what they are. What's the first point in understanding Krishna? Ishvara Parama? Yeah, he's supreme controller. And then second one? Ashincha Shakti, a variety of energies, and those energies of all have mellow taste. So if we understand that, then we see, Krishna is wonderful. And we lose motivation. Just like in 10th canto, when the time came for worshipping Ganga Devi, Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, and all the Brishvasis, they loaded up their carts. They went and they worshipped Ganga. And it says there in the Bhagavatam, after the yajna of worshipping the Ganga, then they said a prayer, may the Supreme Lord be pleased. They didn't ask for any fruit. Why? Because the devotee, he doesn't want a fruit. Why do we do bhajan? To please Krishna. That's our fruit. Right? Sometimes people ask, what's the fruit of circumambulating Govardhan? The fruit is that Govardhan is pleased. That's enough. Right? So the devotee, when he understands Krishna, he becomes purified by that knowledge, and then he develops bhakti. So knowledge of Krishna turns to attraction to Krishna turns to attachment to Krishna turns to prem. Therefore in the beginning, Shravanam Kirtan, we must understand Krishna. And it's not difficult, because as soon as you apply your intelligence in a non-envious way to understanding Krishna, Krishna dadami buddhi yogam tam. He gives all intelligence. Therefore you don't have to be intelligent, or you don't have to be this or that. You just have to be interested. And then you surrender, right? 4 kind of people approach Krishna. So the person in knowledge, he surrenders to Krishna. That's there, right? Some people go, they want money. Some people want mitigation of suffering condition. Some people go for curious. They're all pious, Krishna says. But the person of knowledge, number 4, I consider non-different from myself. And then in the next verse he said, he surrenders to me. Because the fruit of knowledge is to surrender. So you might think, how do I surrender? Surrender in the beginning means to take the instruction of the spiritual master as one's life and soul. But then as we gain realization of Krishna, then our relationship with Krishna blossoms on the basis of prema. Then we realize our swarup at the section of bhava bhakti. Just like knowledge, attraction, bhava. So then you develop your swarup at the stage of bhava. Just like Krishna has a natural swarup, as we said earlier, we also have natural relationship. That comes at the stage of bhava bhakti. The swarup is realized personally and directly, beyond the mental platform. In the stage of sadhana bhakti, we follow the order of guru as our life and soul. We follow sadhana and we cultivate rag by learning to chant following in the footsteps of the Brijvasis. And then we develop bhava, and at stage of bhava we understand our relationship with Krishna. But that is also a mistake of the deviant sampradayas. They meditate on themselves. I am this, I am that. No, we meditate on Krishna. When Krishna is realized, just like Prabhupada mentions, the sun comes up, then you see everything. Once you realize Krishna, you will realize your relationship with Krishna. Devotees are anxious for that. What is my swarup? What is my relationship? So the deviant sampradaya say, well, you should meditate on yourself as this, meditate on yourself as that. No, meditate on Krishna, realize Krishna, and when Krishna is understood, your relationship is automatically included. Sava bhavena bharata. Right? So sava vid bhajati mam. Sa, right? Janati purushottam. So Krishna includes everything. And if you understand Krishna in truth, tattva, then you understand your relationship. How you can understand Krishna without prema, without your own relationship. So anyway, these are important points, esoteric points, and the more finer and developed points of bhakti practice. But we should understand that. We should understand that when I meditate on Krishna and I realize Krishna and I study Krishna, my own relationship will be there naturally. So we'll finish on that point. Srila Prabhupada Bhagavad-Gita ki jai. Any questions, points, contributions? Yes? 1 minute. Microphone. Say again loudly because the fans are on full speed.
In the beginning of the lecture you mentioned, you referred to the Bhagavatam third
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah.
getting into this get the result in next birth.
Yes. There is instant karma, that's your question. Yeah. If you get drunk tonight, you'll have a headache tomorrow. But if you get drunk continually, then you may be born as a fish. So you get I'm not saying you should do this to experiment, but generally we get instant karma. It's sometimes called like that in pop songs. We do get a result immediately from our activity, but
which means prarabdha.
yes, para and aparabdha. Because each activity is like a beach. It's in the nectar of devotion. So the beach sprouts at the right conditions, like...
Yeah, so my question is, what about the devotees?
So the devotees, Rupa Goswami explains that the fire of devotion burns up all the parabdha and aparabdha karma. Just like when there's a big fire in a forest, all the seeds that the trees have dropped, they become burnt up also. So that's an example, an analogy by Rupa Goswami. So you don't have to worry about, parabdha and aparabdha karma. It gets burnt up.
Second point is...
Another example Prabhupada gave is that, right, I've got this type of material body, you've got this type, you've got this one, right? So this is a parabdha karma, manifest karma, right? But, so Prabhupada says, yes, we are in this certain condition because of the manifestation of two things. Our karma, our deeds, our activities, and our desire. They're the two combinations that define our progress through the material world. For example, somebody may want to be a great swimmer. One person, he's got some better karma, so he becomes an Olympic champion. The other person, he also wants to be a good swimmer, he becomes a dolphin. So you both are having their desire fulfilled, but in different ways. You understand? So Krishna is like a desire tree for everyone. So anyway, in this material world, the example Prabhupada gave is that we have this condition, but if we take to bhajan, we take to bhakti, then it is like this fan. It's going around. You turn it off, but it will continue to spin. It won't stop immediately. Right? So when we take to bhakti sadhana, then the parabdha karma, it starts to become weaker and weaker for the devotee. But the materialist is building up, he's keeping the fan going by his desire. Clear? That's your question, right? Yes? Oh yes? Yes, why not?
Yes, regarding the deviant philosophy of Siddha Pranali, the deviant philosophy of Siddha Pranali.
Well, those words are okay, but there's misinterpretation of it. In Nectar of Devotion, Seva Sadhika Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi, Rupa Goswami says, you should perform bhakti with your seva rup, your sadhaka rupena, this material body, but also siddha rupena chatrahi. You should also perform it with your awakening conception of Krishna and your relationship with Krishna. This is the siddha rupena. This is the awakening of the swarup. You should perform bhakti with this, body, serving in the temple in different capacities, doing chanting, doing kirtan. But siddha rupena means that it means your perfected body, your swarup. It will awaken slowly. And the first awakening is that you will develop a attraction for a certain sthayi-bhav, one of the 5 primary rasas. 4. Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Charibhav, I will take birth and I will distribute Krishna Prem and I will make the whole world dance with Charibhav. So we should be attentive to the awakening of an attraction. In the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada, in the purport, he quotes Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada, I think it's in text number 7 or 8, I think in number 8. The beginning is Shravanavas. Shravanavas means you hear everything about Krishna, you gain all knowledge. But then there's Apanadas, you become attracted to a certain staibhav, certain relationship, one of the four Dasya Sakya Vatsalya Madhurya. So then you should specialize in understanding, and you should chant. This is what it says, Nectar of Devotion. You follow in the footsteps of the Brajbasis, Sambandha Roop Bhakti or Kama Roop Bhakti, and then you should cultivate that. But you should be well established in Vaidhi Bhakti. You shouldn't do this from a speculative platform. This is a higher reach, but it's part of sadhana bhakti actually. And by that practice, and Krishna will correct you, Guru will correct you if you have misunderstanding, you can consult. And then you should cultivate a certain mood. That is Siddha Rupena Chatrahi, Rupa Goswami explains. And then you develop that mood, that bhava, that sthayi bhav. And that takes the devotee from raga to bhava. You can read about this in the second chapter of Jaiva Dharma. You should read Jaiva Dharma. There's a good copy here. So then you can make progress easily. Huh?
You mentioned about the letter what Prabhupada wrote to...
Yeah, Rupanuga.
So, any specific information?
I think it's 1969 or something like that. 1972, I think. April 27th, I think. Yeah, that's it. 27th of April 1972. So Prabhupada explains that the Swarup is within the soul, just like the tree is within the beach. That's Prabhupada says. He uses that example. Like I say, Ramanujacharya says the Swarup is folded within the soul. He's speaking figuratively. So, they're very important. Jivara Swarupoy Nichera Krishna Das. Swarup, though it is the constitutional nature, it's all Seva Bhav. So when you have Seva Bhav to Guru and Krishna, then that Swarup wakes up, because the Swarup is composed of Seva Bhav. Nitya Siddha, what is it? Jivara Swarupoy Nichera Krishna Das. So Das means servant. So all the rasas with Krishna are based on Seva Bhav, service attitude, Dasya. So therefore, if you serve Guru and Krishna as a humble servant, Gopi Bhata Kamalayo Dasa Das Anudas, then that will wake up the Swarup, the Seva Bhav. Therefore, at the beginning we may come to bhakti and we think, oh, this is a nice way of life and it's nice. But okay, that's good. Be established in the mode of goodness. But within that, develop mood of service to Guru, to Sadhu, to Krishna, you see. That wakes up the Swarupa. Didami buddhi yogam tam yenamam. Krishna will guide your intelligence. But at the beginning, we should adopt the life and the order of Guru as the life and soul. Because those higher reaches, higher developments may not be within our grasp. So therefore we develop Seva Bhav by becoming servant of Guru. You understand? We don't, you have to practice according to one has to practice according to one's development. That is the duty of the Guru, to give pertinent practice to the sadhaka. Clear? And you get all that by studying the books. Krishna will guide you. Yes, Prabhu. Is that clear? Yes. Okay.
Hare Krishna. I have seen some people who are reading Bhagavatam, who are reading Vedas, who are reading Bhagavad-Gita. Still they are not doing devotion to Krishna. What is it?
What?
I have seen so many people who read Vedanta Sutra, who read Vedas, who read Bhagavad-Gita, Bhagavatam. Still they are not doing devotion to Krishna.
Well, In the Nectar of Devotion, there's 64 practices. Rupa Goswami says, first one is Guru Ashraya. You must take shelter, just like Krishna says in the beginning of this chapter, Evam Parampara Praptam. You must take shelter of a Uttamadikari, preferably in disciplic succession. And once you have the shelter of a real sadhu, or really realized devotee, then that is very pleasing to Krishna, and you serve that guru with your heart and soul. So I cannot comment on other people, and your statement is very general, but even if people are just reading Gita and Bhagavatam, just by reading the books, even if their understanding is imprecise and even misguided, by their curiosity, right, the 4 types, by their interest in spiritual matters, still they should be accepted as devotees. Abhichet sudaracharo bhajate ananyabhak sadhureva samantavya. Right, Krishna says, even if the sadhu, he doesn't know and he doesn't practice very nicely, but even if he's just appreciating, I want to understand Krishna, I want to be a devotee, if he hasn't come to the platform of good realization, so Krishna says still, sadhu reva taman, you should still think he's a sadhu, because he is endeavoring in the right direction. You see? So we should not expect everyone to be Paramahamsa immediately. It is natural. We're all struggling out of the material conditioning. So some people are at different stages. But if they are reading Bhagavatam and Gita and they're interested, that's very excellent, right? They're pointing themselves in the right direction. So then it is the duty of the devotee to give them sangha and encourage them as best can possible, not to discourage them. Oh, you don't know. I'm not saying this is your point of view. Oh, you don't know anything, and like that. Because devotee is non-envious. He's kind friend, you see. Just like Srila Prabhupada. He went to the West, we didn't know anything. But because he was so non-envious, so loving, everybody wanted to serve him. So devotee should really become established as a devotee himself. That is the best service. And then people will naturally feel attracted to the devotee. Just like the people drinking beer in Soho, in London. They see the devotees are happy and they're not making trouble. They may not even be singing in tune, but they enjoy it. So we shouldn't look, oh, they don't know Krishna, but they're reading Bhagavatam. You understand? We should think, oh, they're reading Bhagavatam, they're on the right path. You understand? Look the good side. Right? Just like a doctor. If he goes in the hospital and he says, oh, you're all sick, I'm not bothered with you people. No, his job is to make you unsick. Right? So devotee, he should be full of medicine, you see. Right? Alright, we're finished. You're looking at the clock. We can go to Aarti. Yeah, we'll finish now. Alright? Everyone happy? Clear? Thank you all very much for coming. Srila Prabhupada Bhagavad-Gita Sadhu Sangha Ki Jai.